So with that being said, I do want to kind of do some homework review. Okay, so we're going to review some homework. So I tried to get through a lot. I have about 8 profiles up on my screen right now. We're going to try to review super fast some of these 8 profiles. So this is an opportunity. If you haven't updated your profile yet, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Get your notepads out, get your note-taking devices out, and we're gonna try to crush through some of these profiles. Some rules of engagement on the profiles that we're about to look at here. I'm only looking at above the fold, right? And so when we talk about above the fold, everything that I can see right here and upwards is what it is that I'm going to look at. And let's close some of these extra windows down that we have down here. Right? We're going to talk about just everything that I can see right here and above. So this is going to include things that we talked about on Saturday, which is the banner, the profile picture, this heading right here, and we'll cheat. And since about right there is there, we'll scroll a little bit down and we will look at the about section. We'll see what we can do. So that's what we're looking at. Those are kind of the 4 elements that we're going to look at in reviewing the homework. We're going to do a real simple school-aged grade when it comes to grading these the homework assignments. So it's A, B, C, D, and F. I actually almost said E. Don't know why, but I almost said E. But it's A, B, C, D, and F. And we're looking for, so kind of some of the grading criteria is, does it pop out? Does this profile, kind of in that 3 to 5 seconds, 3 to 6 seconds, does it make you grab that attention and want to kind of read further? And we'll just kind of take that teacher approach with it. So if everybody is ready, we will go ahead and we're going to hit Chase's profile first, because Chase did message me and tell me that he had updated his profile. We're going to go ahead and take a look at his. So right off the bat, I like this. Chase, good job. This is very solid right here. It's simple design, very clean. I like it. We have here the socials. Look, I know that this is a stock image, but I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's recognizable. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to look like you paid a digital graphics designer for it. But this looks solid right to your Twitter account. I'm digging it. And also, I love this. Chase is posting it directly to his blog. Now, I am going to pick on Chase a little bit later tonight for some of his blog stuff, but I love this. I think this is awesome. So on the banner, Chase, you get an A, digging the banner. Let's go down to his heading. So remember, one of the things that we talked about Chase was we wanted him to remove the Network Plus, the A Plus, and things like this. Glad to see that gone. And look, right here, excellent work here. Cybersecurity specialist. I look at this right now, and already in my head, I see that Chase is a cybersecurity professional. He's got some content for me to look at. I'm looking at this. I'm like, cool. If I've got a cybersecurity role, I want to talk to Chase. So right there in that 3 to 5 seconds, Chase has given me the indicators that he is interested in cybersecurity work. I like this. This looks good. I'm happy with this. You get an A, Chase. This update looks really good. Okay, I'm highly motivated cybersecurity professional. I rank. All right. So you'll see this when we talk about some of the other ones. Is this 19,410 out of 19,411 or out of 194,100, right? To people who look at numbers, remember, numbers by themselves don't mean anything. Try to put context beside numbers, right? That's the biggest thing when it comes to numbers. Let's put some context there so that we know how awesome this is, right? So like that it's there. Let's contextualize that a little bit more. And again, same here, 16 rooms completed. Is that 16 out of 17? 16 out of 160? What does that look like? I'm okay with this metric, but we can have an entire conversation on metrics, but let's try to put some contextualization around this metric so that we can wrap it up. And then 33% complete the beginner, 33% complete beginner path completion. Too many uses of the word complete. Let's streamline that down. But I like this, and I like where you're going with it, right? I'd say tweak this up a little bit. Okay, short and sweet. I would say, without looking at length or anything like this, I'd probably give you a C+ for the about section. Okay, so 4 pieces. A, right? A, digging it, love the professional picture, love the heading, love the title here. C plus on the about section. So let's move on to the next one. Let's close out some of these. This is one of our awesome females that we have paying attention to the stream. Always glad to see this, and I'm so glad that Siraj took the time to submit her resume or her LinkedIn. So let's jump into this again. I love this. Look, nothing fancy, very clean, very nice lines. Actually, this looks very artistic. I dig this a lot. And boom, right here, Curious Spectre. Right here's some socials right here at the top. Digging it, drawing the attention to it. Again, super clean, super easy picture. You know, this picture is good. This picture looks good. So I'm going to give you an A on the banner, and I'm going to give you an A on the professional picture. I like that. This looks good. I like this. I'm looking to strengthen the cybersecurity posture of an organization in my first cybersecurity role. So I liked all of this until first cybersecurity role, right? Again, you know, I don't, you know, this reads, when you say first, what you're telling people is you don't have a cybersecurity job right now, which is it's not terrible, but let's not lose the audience in that first 3 to 8 seconds by saying first cybersecurity role. I think you could have done perfectly well by saying I'm looking to strengthen the posture of an organization through my cybersecurity, you know, expertise, right? And expertise is always a very, you know, subjective thing. But I think that you're perfectly fine to say that. So I'm going to give you a B on the headline here. I think you could probably pop this headline out just a little bit more. Bree Brand says he seems kind of redundant to list your LinkedIn on your LinkedIn banner. No, you know, I think if you're trying to get people to associate it with a brand, you could do, you know, you get people used to saying Siraj is Curious Spectre. And so that way, if they see other content that's out there on the internet that may be listed as Curious Spectre versus Siraj, maybe, you know, they could associate that. I could give that a 50-50. You're not right. You're not wrong on that, or you're both right and wrong, however you want to do it. You know, I wouldn't dock her points for putting LinkedIn in the banner. I'd call that, you know, no impact, low to no impact on that. Plus, if you do this banner here, then you could put this banner on Twitter, and you could use the exact same banner on Twitter that you use on LinkedIn, and that way you're consistent across both platforms. So A on the header, A on the picture, B on the header here. I would take out the first part of this. Looking at your about, immediately I like this. There's a lot of stuff for me to consume here. So recruiting wise, I'm looking at this going, okay, she's taking the time to list out things. Okay. I look at this and I immediately go, okay, let's read some of this and let's see what she's got. So she's actively seeking opportunities. That's good. And so as a penetration tester in the corporate environment, this reads really, really good. This reads really good. You copied something here, Siraj, from somebody else's profile. So, you know, little things like this can get picked up on. So let's just be cognizant of, you know, little mistakes like this. So I'm sure that means to say she, but let's be cognizant of that. Again, you do it here as well. Whoops. Yeah, it says he all over the place, all over a lot of this. Let's be a little bit, let's do a little bit of QC on this. I will never tell you guys not to plagiarize, right? But I do think that if you're going to plagiarize, you should at least do the due diligence to go through the profile and make sure that the profile has been sanitized for everything that you want it to be sanitized for. So, you know, take the stuff that's important, but at least do the due diligence of going through and in making sure that it's listed correctly throughout. Do like this. I think this is awesome. And I think this is awesome. I like the way that this is laid out. So, you know, this looks good. I do like this. I'm starting to wonder. I thought maybe Siraj was a female. Maybe it's not. If I'm mistaken on that, then I apologize. It's always hard to tell with pictures, but if I'm mistaken on this, then I'll apologize up front with that. Now I feel really embarrassed about this. Hopefully that's not the case, because I thought it was a female profile. I'll just go ahead and apologize and look like a complete and total buffoon right up front for that. Hard to tell on this one, but let's just make sure that that's the case on this profile. Otherwise, I do think this is amazing. I do like the way this is laid out. I'll give this an thanks for the plug on the Twitch down here at the bottom. I do genuinely like the way this is laid out, and so I give this an A+ down here at the bottom, especially the listing out of the skills down here. So if I misgendered you, I apologize for that, and I'll own that. That's on me. Moving on to Mark Sabellos profile. Don't mind the word cloud up here. Actually digging the word cloud a little bit up here. Maybe a B or a C on the word cloud. It's a little noisy here on the word cloud a little bit. So and the more I look at it, the more I'm like, what are you trying to convey here with the word cloud? Yeah, I'm probably gonna stick with a B or a C on the word cloud, because this is a little confusing here. Like the picture, you get an A on the picture. Again, super easy to drop a professional picture like this. Cybersecurity advocate, out of the box thinker, tech enthusiast, help desk specialist. I like this. I like this a lot. That gets an A on the headline here. Definitely gets an A on the headline. Cybersecurity advocate, out of the box thinker. Like, here's something. I don't know if this was intentional or not, Mark. You put the help desk specialist at the end. You put the cybersecurity advocate part at the first. And this is exactly what I talked about on Saturday when it came to tracking on what people wanted to take away from you first. The first thing I saw was cybersecurity advocate and out of the box thinker and tech enthusiast. So I'm associating all of these things with Mark first before I ever make it to help desk specialist. So this is what I'm talking about using these headlines and using them in this fashion to highlight what it is that you want your audience to take away with, right? And so I thought all of these things first before I ever got to help desk specialist. And as a matter of fact, I get to help desk specialist and I'm like, oh, wow, I wouldn't have even thought that you were a help desk specialist, but it still pops out. So this is a good use of that area here to, use that to kind of, make that pop and catch that recruiter's attention. So you definitely get an A for this right here. Digging it. It was intentional. Thank you very much. Is this if this is yours, claw overdraw? A+. This is awesome. I like this. Good use of that. Mark has been spent some use this also. I like this. I like this. This reads really, really well. This reads really well. I like this. You get an A for this as well. This looks good. This looks good. I like this. Okay, so I would say you've got A's throughout, right? A here, A here, A here. This, I think, is the only thing that's just a little noisy. I don't hate it, right? I'll say a B. Let's go with a B here on this. Just because it's a little noisy, but everything else you've got an A on, and I think it looks really good. Okay, Tamir Mayer, like this again, short, sweet, and easy. Again, socials aren't required. I'm not going to dock you points for not having the socials. I like this. This is innovative. It definitely pops. Definitely pops at you. I'd say A for the effort. I like this. This definitely pops at you. MBO consultant, right? So, okay. So lots of high level. So I'm looking at this Yep. I lead achieving big targets, adding value wherever I go, looking for new opportunities. I like this, right? So I can see this as you're very high level. I like the fact you've got COO, CTO, CIO, right? So you're telling me that you're capable of operating at that executive level, whether it's in the technology space, whether it's as an information officer, or whether it's as an information security officer. I like this. It tells me that you're ready, right? You value yourself at that executive tier. So right there off the bat, we've got a master's degree, a PMP, right? And you operate at that executive level. So that gets a plus in my book. I like it. And this right here definitely says that you're looking to add value to an organization, and that you're looking for new opportunities. So you get an A here. So I'm going to go with and A for all three of these. Liking it. Project management, companies have companies with their value, generate higher cash flow, work on multiple domains, private equity, like all this. This all looks good. I've also worked on mergers and acquisitions, company valuation. I like this. This is awesome to see. Got good. You've got the verticals down here. I like the verticals. I'm an active member on Try Hack Me, Hack the Box, Range Force, and INE. I like this. If you're looking for a senior maestro. Okay, I like this. This looks good. A's throughout, Tamir. I like this. This looks good, right? Again, I saw, like, if we look at back here at Mark did a really good job of taking the third person view, right? I think, this looks really good, even though it's in that first person view. I think you've done a really good job of capturing your expertise and things like this. So I actually don't have any complaints with your use of the first person here versus the third person. This gets a plus in my book. A's throughout. Good job, Tamir. Looks good. Michael Wright. Okay, so we've got, again, short and sweet up here at the top, but still, technology related. It pops. Like the service member picture here. I presume this is potentially maybe your father or mentor or something like this. Not terrible. Not bad. We'll give it a B for the profile pic, but even if you had like one of those canned military pics where it was just you in your uniform, like what they take for some of the glossy profiles or things like that they do for the wall, because it looks like you're probably a little senior, like an E7 or something like that, E6 or A7. I would probably look for that glossy that I would put on there instead. IT field service technician, cybersecurity trainee. So again, here with the trainee, I would drop out the trainee piece of this, and I would go back to kind of what we talked about, like over here at Chase's, where we talk about, being a specialist, right? Don't downplay, right, what you are by putting it in trainee. I definitely don't think that I would do that. I'd probably go, probably B on the background here, B on the profile picture. I'm gonna go C on the heading here. Could definitely use some work on the heading here. Like this, short and sweet. This is nice and easy. Talks about where your expertise is. When I see multiple awards, I almost always encourage people who put multiple awards or multiple of anything. Multiple awards is nice. So, right. So we think about things in terms of good, better, best, right? Good, multiple awards, right? Better is put those awards in there, right? You can almost say, he is the recipient of the following awards for outstanding performance and professionalism in the U.S. Navy. Put, commendation medal for, outstanding service in, combat to Iraq or Afghanistan. Achievement medal for X, Y, and Z. Put those awards down there. If you're proud of them to put them here, be extra proud of them to list them in your about. I don't think that that's a problem at all whatsoever. Noxamar says it might be the guy with the gray hair and not the military guy. It might be. I think that confusion that you're pointing out right there is exactly why we want that picture to be one person to figure out who it really is. Let's, again, you can kind of see that confusion that exists right there. Who are we hiring here is the question. So let's try to narrow that down in terms of who we're hiring there. But again, that's exactly why I want to narrow that down a little bit, is to figure out who exactly it is that we're hiring. But so I'd say B, B, C, and B here in the about section in terms of grades. But getting there, keep working at it. I think this is Angry Amoeba's profile here, Josh's. Just because I recognize the premier banker top 20% and try hack me. So like this, digging it, super clean here, like that. A on the background, like it. A plus on the professional picture here. That's obviously a good professional picture here. I like this. This pops, right? Premier banker, top 20% on try hack me. Here's the reason why. You're a banker that's on the top 20% of try hack me. Like, as a recruiter, I want to go, wait, hold on for a second. You're a banker that's on try hack me. I have got to see what this looks like, right? And that's why I dig this, because it definitely is that, wait a minute, you're a banker that's doing try hack me. How does this work, right? And so definitely this is one of those cases where it's short and sweet, right? Two bullet points that definitely grab that attention and are like, hey, let's take a look at this and let's see what this looks like. So I'm gonna go A here, A here, A here for sure. So A's on these first three right here, but then you lose it here, and this one of those times where I'm gonna say, short and sweet is not your friend. I don't really think you capture the essence of the about section down here. So I'm gonna give you a D on the about section here. I think you miss the mark on the about section down here. And you lose the audience here, right? So like it. Aw, don't like it. Let's try and get that. Let's try and get that cleaned up a little bit. All right, Jason, like this. I like the quote. Okay, so again, here we've got the personal blog, personal website, got the Twitter account, digging that. Cybersecurity analyst, mentor, assess security controls, insider threat detection, creator or force. I like this. This reads really well, right? All the right things being said here, right? You're an analyst, you're an educator, you like to mentor people, bring people along on the journey. Talks about, I presume this is probably a passion of yours, as well as, this looks like something you've done or you're really good at. And it shows giving back to the community. Dig it. So we're going to go A, like all three of these. Definitely get the A's all across the board here for all three of these. Looking at this about. Like this. This looks good. I like this. Nice. Like numbers. Like this. So here we go. This is what we're talking about, guys, right? Right? Here's an impact statement. Let's take a look at this, right? This is an impact statement right here. Led over 300 combat missions throughout the Sunni Triangle without losing personnel or equipment, earning him the Bronze Star Medal. So back to what we were talking about with the other military profile, where you said you were the award of several medals. This is exactly what I'm talking about expanding upon that medal creation, where you take that an extra step and you talk about, like, this is the reason why you got the medal, and this is the reason why we can trust you, is because you led over 300 combat missions without losing personnel or equipment. I like this. This gets an A+ in my book right here. This looks good. Like this. Complete the beginner's path on Try Hack Me. Is currently working on the blue defense path. Right, Jason uses Try Hack Me to test the skills he learned. Boom. So for folks who are like struggling with the I'm learning Try Hack Me, or I'm learning Hack the Box, or I'm just getting started, or things like this, I like the way this is worded, right? Jason uses Hack the Box to test the skills he learned. That reads very well, right? That means that you're constantly trying to push your skills to the limit. So I very much like this. I like the way that that's worded. I like this. A+. Jason, I like this. This is a fantastic profile. This is a fantastic profile. So, um, digging all of this. Was that the last one? Yep, that's mine. Okay, so that's a review of everybody's homework assignment. I appreciate everybody who submitted the homework assignment for that. Hopefully everybody got a lot out of that. Reviewing that homework assignment. I really like the progress that has come along. These look really, really good, everybody. These look amazing. I do truly, really, really think you guys did a fantastic job on all of these profiles, on all the homework assignments. I'll ask Carmen if there's any questions that I missed while we were going through those. If you want to push those, I'll answer those really quick. For military, we write it like an eval bullet area in the about section. What I would almost say, and depending on what area of the military you come from, when I read this part of Jason's right here, this looks like something that came out of a metal package, right? So remember, I'm Air Force, so I'm going to use some Air Force lingo here, right? This looks like it may have come from an EPR bullet, or maybe it would have come from a deck package, and then maybe just changed a couple of words to make it more private sector friendly. So, this is about taking your EPRs or your performance reviews or your decoration packages, pulling those bullet points out, and making them more private sector friendly. But this looks to me, and Jason, I don't know if you're in chat and can confirm or deny this, but this looks like something he probably pulled out of a deck package and just made it private sector friendly. So I wouldn't necessarily say it has to be strict eval bullet format in the about section, but I would definitely say go back to all your EPRs, go back to all your performance reviews, go back to all your decorations packages, pull out those impactful statements from those, and then you're 75% of the way there. All you have to do from there is then just make it more private sector friendly. And that's how I would tell you to handle that stuff. Came out of my NCO ER. I presume that's non-commissioned officer evaluation report or something like that. But yeah, it looks like it came out of some type of a performance review or something like that was done off of you. So, I think you did an excellent job of converting that from military speak over to private sector speak. And I think that's why it reads really, really good there. So I'm super happy with that. Somebody else says, is there a best practice for referencing someone's picture for using in one's banner, or is it just viewed as generic acceptable use? If you're talking about like Tim Cook or Steve Jobs or something like this, I don't think that there's really like a standard best practice. If you're talking about creating your GIF yourself, if you're talking about like using my picture up there, I'd at least like to know that you're using my picture up there. And if you're going to say anything negative about it, I'd really like to know about it. But I don't think that I don't think there is any standard best practice or anything like that in terms of using, somebody else's picture. I think, who was it? Wasn't there somebody here who used? No, Chase. No, I thought there was, but maybe there wasn't anybody I looked at. Not sure whose picture you'd want to use other than your own, unless you were just trying to have like a public figure that you resonate with from like a thought leadership perspective. I don't think there's any real standard practice or best practice on that at all. I'd call it generic acceptable use. Is my Twitter handle too unprofessional to put on my professional LinkedIn profile? It's the same as my Twitch handle. So it's fantastic you bring that up. This also came up, and I had this as a note to talk about on that was asked in Discord, right? And I think Regibom asked it in Discord, which was, I literally have zero social presence besides an outdated LinkedIn. Is having just LinkedIn enough? So let's talk about perception in terms of, like, in your case, the Twitter handle, having other social media sites and things like this. Remember, this gets back to the conversation of brand, right? I think you want to find ways to associate your brand with you. Your Twitch handle, right, is It's Me Easy E, right? Do I think that that's unprofessional? I don't know. If I go to Twitter and look at It's Me Easy E, am I going to see you hanging around doing keg stands, with at a party, right? that may not necessarily be an image that you want associated with your brand. But if you've got It's Me Easy E and you're doing a whole lot of cyber content and you're very active on those socials, maybe it's not so bad, right? I think there was another question that came up is should my Twitter handle be first name dot last name? And again, I look at this and I see Jason's here and his is at Huey. I don't fundamentally have a problem with that. That doesn't really bother me, right? I get to associate at Huey with Jason. I think in this day and age, if you look at things like Hacks for Pancakes, which is Leslie Carhart's from Dragos, right? If you look at Gab Smash, if you look at lots of the big Twitter handles that are out there, they were all Twitter handles that was created when there was a time where it was really okay to just have, whatever your fancy was. I mean, mine is at it.junkie. I've never felt the need to change it to my name. And so I don't think that you have to feel forced to change your Twitter handle or to change your LinkedIn profile or to change anything to match society's definition of what your Twitter handle should be. And honestly, I think unless you were, you came up in the 80s or 90s and knew that Eazy was a rapper, you may not necessarily be referenced to privy to that reference. So I say all that to say, own the brand, own how you feel about that brand, own it. If that's something that you like and it resonates with you, don't lose your character in that brand. Just make sure that brand is associated with something that you're proud to own. Okay? So that's kind of the first answer I would give to that. To the second question about zero social media presence outside of an outdated LinkedIn, is having LinkedIn just enough? I think the answer is yes, right? Remember, LinkedIn is your digital portfolio. It's your digital resume. You want that to be awesome. You want that to be a representation of who you are as a professional. Everything else that you do, right? LinkedIn, Instagram, all these other social networks that exist out there, they're all just ancillary orbital items to your LinkedIn profile, right? If we look at Michael writes here, I didn't dock him for not having any other social media. That's his choice just to have this here when it comes to his LinkedIn profile. So there's nothing wrong with not having any other socials. The point of having the other socials or the point of having the other presence is they kind of help boost that orbital image of you as a person. But at the same time, I don't think it detracts if you don't have those other social media networks. And again, everybody's time is different. The amount of effort that everybody puts involved into their different social media profiles is different. And so I would say do what your time permits in terms of the maintenance of those other social media profiles. I mean, I could tell you that if it wasn't for Hootsuite, I don't know how I would manage all the social media platforms that I'm on right now. So two answers to two different questions there on that one. Idea, it isn't training like what you're doing here, but given how popular WGU is, I wonder if it would be worth working into your chart. Just throwing that out there. Going back to this, I worry about WGU at all because it's collegiate, right? And I don't want to cover colleges because I feel like that gets to be just a whole different area of trying to keep up with the value of that training per se. I'll take it under consideration, but I'm trying to think about the person who is either pre-WGU trying to decide, do they spend the money on WGU or do they go out there and take training, or the person who's coming out of WGU or collegiate colleges at all, who's trying to figure out what the next thing that they should spend money on. That's what I really want to try to focus on with this. So I want to try to stay away from the collegiate, grading system, because I think that could get pretty hairy as well. One problem that I'm facing when finding jobs is that I've been rejected because of lack of experience. I emphasize that I'm willing to learn whatever is necessary, but sometimes that doesn't matter anymore. Cards and dices, that's the biggest problem that everybody faces, is this idea of experience, right? And so, and I am going to cover this on LinkedIn. We're not done talking about LinkedIn. I'll talk about how to cover some of that experience here on LinkedIn. But this is also why I want to build this chart out, especially on the demonstrative side, right? Because one of the things that I think we as an industry need to get out of the mindset of is that industry doesn't have to be your butt in a seat doing a job, right? Your butt in a seat doing a job does not necessarily mean experience. And so we need to start embracing that with the way that these platforms are set up here. These platforms give you a lot of experience that you wouldn't typically get in college or, and again, back to the WGU thing, necessarily by going to WGU or doing those universities. I'll use Range Force as an example. On Range Force, you have Splunk, Elastic, Carbon Black. I think I was talking to Gordon the other day, and they're looking at adding Sentinel-1 here pretty soon, right? Those are places where you get to have hands-on experience with those technologies. So that's 2 SIMs and 2 EDRs that you get to go and have hands-on experience doing that you get to put on your resume. And so I think we need to think outside the box, put your hacker hats on, and think outside the box when it comes to your definition of experience. And that's what I would challenge folks for. And I'll talk about here in a little bit about what that looks like on your resume, because we are gonna go through the part 2 of that. But I challenge you to think outside the box when it comes to experience. Cyber Columbiana, thank you so very much. I'm glad to see you in chat. I want to give a huge shout out to Miss Cyber Columbiana here. I chatted with her earlier. Her and I've got some things in the works. We're gonna hopefully get her on the stream. She's a pretty awesome individual. I enjoyed talking with her this afternoon. I want to say thank you so very much, Cyber Columbiana, for your 5-month advanced subscription. She subbed to the channel for the next 5 months. I'm glad that our chat inspired you so much to do that. Thank you very much for your support. Can you go through a live exercise showing how you'd go about writing an article using your 3 rules? What, so what, now what? Oh man, somebody's paying attention to my videos. Yay. Heard you say this on David's YouTube interview and absolutely love this idea framework for writing valuable content. Absolutely. We will add that. We'll cover that Wednesday. So Wednesday, when we talk about executive writing, we'll cover I know you asked for an article. I'll add the article piece to that. But when we talk about pen test reporting on Wednesday, we'll cover what, so what, now what, and I'll also do it in article format. But I'm so glad to see you, and thank you very much for the 5-month advanced sub. Baked Fuzz, cyber insecurity. So I've been getting into cybersecurity learning for a while now. I've been doing different things so I can have a broad view. While doing this, my nephew has taken an interest. Do you think I should pay for the Try Hack Me for him to see how far he takes it? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think if you have and you say nephew, right? That's family, right? I think if you have somebody in your life, whether that's family or whether that's somebody at work who sees an interest in what you're doing in cybersecurity, I think you should absolutely take that opportunity to see if you can light that spark in them, right? And so by if you feel the need to pay for it, I mean, again, remember, Range Force, Try Hack Me, Hack the Box, they all have a certain amount of free exercises. So I mean, don't pay money if you can send them to the free stuff. But introduce them to the concepts and see if it lights a spark in them. I absolutely think so. I think it's a fantastic idea. Captain Munch, we've got like a lot of munches. Cyber insecurity, I've been watching you since the David Bombal interview, but I still have a question now. I'm going to graduate from high school in a year, and by the time I'll have an A+ cert, but what else should I do to prepare for the workforce? I think that's workforce. And I want to get into an analyst position at some point. So what are good entry-level jobs for me? So So again, my typical thing, if you watch my David Bombal videos, hydrate fail. If you've watched the the David Bombal videos, right? I'm a huge fan of the hands-on. Good on you for getting your A plus, but what I don't see you talking about is I don't see a LinkedIn profile, mentioned in there. Make sure you've got LinkedIn. Make sure you're doing the networking challenge, right? Get those 1,000 connections. What you should be doing next is you should be getting your hands-on, right? And so I go back over here to our Gartner not Gartner chart, right? And I talk about demonstrative skill sets, and which of these demonstrative platforms, both from a free, right, and a paid perspective, both from a hobbyist and a professional perspective, where are you at on your hands-on skill set from these free or paid demonstrative capabilities? So when people say, what can I do next, I'm gonna start referencing this chart and be like, okay, which of these have you done? And if you haven't done any of these, that should be what you do next, right? Is look at some of these options and be like, okay, of these options, which ones do I do next? And so that would be what I would say, especially if you want to get into an entry level analyst position. Go get your hands dirty. Go get your hands dirty. All right, last one, and then we're going to jump into the second part of the LinkedIn hacking. Unholy Ferret says, I'm 50 years old, had to close my business because of COVID. I'm sorry to hear that. Been out of tech for about 12 years now. Is it realistic goal to train up to be an ethical hacker? So my short answer to that is yes, unequivocally. Absolutely. Absolutely. I do not think that it is unrealistic to do so, right? Everything is about time, money, and effort, right? If you have the time and you have the money and you put in the effort, you can absolutely be an ethical hacker, right? I think, we can go on about this debate of whether there's 3.5 million open jobs in cybersecurity. Caitlin has a different perspective than I do, and we talked about that on the stream a couple weeks ago. But I definitely think that there's enough job roles out there. Now, what I will say is that ethical hacking is probably one of the most competitive job choices that you could have chosen. And so this is where the time, money, effort equation will really pay off, right? Everybody wants to be an ethical hacker. Everybody thinks that they're Mr. Robot. Everybody thinks that they're, they're Matthew Broderick from War Games. Everybody thinks that they're, Hugh Jackman from Swordfish, right? Everybody thinks that they're that person, right? And so, you're going to have to put in the time, money, and effort to prove that you're on that same level. Because that's what everybody wants to do. So do I think you can do it? Yes. And I believe in you, and I want you to be there, and I want you to succeed. And I'm glad that you're here, and I'll literally give you all of the knowledge that's in this dome so that you can be successful in this space. But you got to put in the time, money, and effort to do so. All right. So with that being said, let's hop back into LinkedIn hacking part 2. We're going. And let's talk about, we covered a lot of above the fold stuff, right? And we talk about above the fold. We're talking about everything that's on this top part here. Let's go down and let's talk about everything below the fold. Okay. I'm going to leave activity for later because I there's a lot to talk about on activity. So let's go down to experience. When we talk about the experience part of your resume, this is as close to your resume, or of LinkedIn, this is as close to your resume as you're going to get. And so this definitely needs to look almost identical, I would say, to portions of your resume, right? I know some people's resumes can get rather long and can get rather cumbersome, but I think when we look at this here, this needs to not be, and folks who have sent me your resume, and if you sent me your resume already and are waiting for me to review it, I can give you an idea of what I'm going to talk about when I look at your resume. A lot of people's resume that I look at, they simply have what their job description is that they were given by their employer, right? Or they have the task that they're tasked to complete, right? Or I'll pick on Chase here a little bit. And I've seen this with Chase, right? Where, he only has like a handful of bullets. Or, oh, did Chase take off his other military career? Oh, he collapsed it into one. He collapsed it into one based on our conversation last time. If you remember last time we talked about Chase, he had this, and then he had another separate portion for the Marine Corps down here where he didn't have any other bullets, right? So good on you, Chase, for updating below the fold too. Proud of you. a lot of people don't put a lot of effort into these conversations. So if you go back to what Cyber Columbiana asked, right, about writing articles, about what I talked about in David Bomble's stuff, right? 3 key ways to write anything, right? She asked about the article, and we'll absolutely do it about an article, absolutely do it about pen test reports. But also, when you look at writing about yourself for a resume, it's also key to keep those 3 things in mind. What? So what? Now what? Okay? Say it again. What? So what? Now what? Right? When you look at doing, when you look at writing about your experience as an installation technician, right, for Northland Communications Company, this tells me that you did installation and support of a particular switch for business groups focusing on customers. Again, with the worn few hats in the company, I also like to work in other departments to support them in their data work as escalation of technical resource. 2 sentences. I don't see the value you brought to the company. And again, this isn't a smash on Brian. I'm sure he brings a ton of value. He's been working at this company for almost 5 years now, it looks like. Yeah, 5 years and 5 months. Not a smash on Brian, but this doesn't tell me the value that you bring to the company, right? I haven't looked at Gerald's, but let's go take a look at Gerald Augur's. So managing. Here we go. Responsible for the design, build, and implementation of enterprise-class information security systems and policies across health, academic, research domains to provide value for MUSC and its partners. Short and sweet. I think I would probably still say, even on this, Gerald misses the mark in terms of what the impact was to the business when it comes to this. Gerald, if you're listening to the stream, we can talk later, about me bashing your LinkedIn on stream. But I like to see, when I looked at LinkedIn profiles, I like to see impacts that you've had on organizations, right? This does say that you're responsible for the build of this, but you were an architect, right? How many projects did you do? How many, how many implementations did you do? Again, here, installation and support of these business groups. How many installations did you support? Right. I go back over here to I'm going to use Jason's profile because I like this. Did you do this down here in your experience as well? Okay, so again, I know we're only talking about above the fold. I know we only graded Jason on above the fold, but these types of bullets here, these types of bullets should easily be replicated down here in experience, right? So down here on Jason's, right, we have nothing on his experience. Jason has just listed all of the places he's ever worked, right? Without actually mentioning his experience, right? Think about the definition of experience, right? The experience is supposed to be, what did you do? What was your experience, right? You don't say, hey, I went skiing. Where? Breckenridge, Swiss Alps, or the hills up here in Wisconsin, right? I went skiing in the mountains. How big was the mountain? Was it large? Was it small? Was it 50 mountains or was it 5, right? Think about experiences that you've had in your life and think about how you would tell your friend about those experiences that you've had in your life, right? What were those experiences like? And that's what I would say is like, yeah, I went to Breckenridge. And it was my 7th time at Breckenridge because I think I just value the depth of the powder that's there and the challenging slopes across all skill levels. And while I was there, I skied on 17 different trails. Tried some new things that worked. Maybe I did a half pipe and did my first ever backflip, and that worked out really, really well. Made some new friends. Had a great time and came home after a week, right? That's an experience, right? I want you to capture that essence of that experience here in your experience part of LinkedIn, right? That's what I feel like is missing from this is what was the experienced part of your experience here that makes somebody go, wow, you did something awesome at this company, right? You implemented some new technology. You thought outside the box and implemented something outside the box. You did 17 projects across the entire infrastructure. Like, define that experience for yourself, that an HR recruiter is going to look at this experience and say, I want them to have that experience with my company. Right? I want them to bring that experience, like, that sounds awesome. I want you to do that here. Right? Think about that as you're writing your experience section, because you want that experience to really reflect, wow, I want them to bring that to my capability. I struggle with a lot of these experience bullet points, and I haven't looked at all of these, so I'm just going to do a quick once over and just kind of see, okay, a little bit better here in terms of we've got numbers. Chase has been listening to the stream pretty regularly, so if I feel like he's probably updated this, but I like the numbers that are listed here. Better, but for this is a case where you have 11 years of experience. You have 11 years with the United States Marine Corps, and thank you so very much for your service to our country. But in 11 years, the best you've got is 3 bullets. Like, that's, I like where you're starting with this, but after 11 years, I would expect you to have more to talk about after 11 years in the service, right? Same thing here, right? You don't really talk about what it is that you do. And this is, you spent 13 years at Intuit, right? You did a lot of roles at Intuit. My fear, right, when I see people who do this, claw overdraw, I'll pick on you just a little bit because I know that you're, I know you can take it, right? But when I see people who do this, I feel like you're like, well, this isn't cyber. This isn't even IT or tech, right? Or maybe it is. This case, it looks like it's help desk, right? You're doing help desk roles, right? But it's not cyber, and you're still like, well, I don't want to put any effort into these experiences because they're not relevant to cyber. And so because of that imposter syndrome, and I'll just call it what it is, it's imposter syndrome. Use the exclamation point imposter in chat to get the link to the video and go watch it, right? But I feel like because of that imposter syndrome, you don't want to talk about the 13 years that you spent here at Intuit because you're ashamed or you're embarrassed or it's not related to cyber, okay? You need to break that down. You spent 13 years at Intuit, right? That can't be 13 years of your life that was wasted, right? It can't be. That's not what you want to. You want to own and be proud of those 13 years there. And let's talk about those 13 years. Let's talk about those experiences, and let's get those experiences out here on this. So that a recruiter looks at this and says, I can relate to that experience. I want you to bring that experience to my company. Let's not downplay the 13 years that you spent here. So I'm looking at his really quick. Again, I haven't looked at this. So again, same thing, right? We're not talking about what those experiences are, right? We're chief technology officer. I know you only spent 8 months there as a chief technology officer, but you had to have done something as CTO, right? People want to know if they're bringing you on as a CTO, what was your impact to the organization? You have chief technology officer in your title, but I have no idea what the impact you had to the organization was. And I think that's same here with COO, right? You were COO here for 8 months, but I don't know what your impact to the organization was. I would encourage you guys to think about these experiences. There's a lot of missed opportunities on these experiences that talk about the awesome things and the impact that you've done to organizations. Okay, so here we go. We're on Michael's now. Okay, better. I like this. Okay, so outside of a few tweaks, this is better. So we're below the fold. Michael, I like what you've done here below the fold. This is better. It reads like job responsibilities, which, okay, we can talk about that in a different topic, but at least I get a sense for what you've worked on. I get a sense of what you've done, right, in the 3 years that you've been, right? Look at the 3 years, right? And don't look at it for quality of the content. Look at it for the amount of content. You were here for 3 years, and you look at somebody like Chase who's been here for 11, and these are the 3 bullet points that they've got, right? That's what I want you to take out of this conversation is there's a lot of stuff that's in here that gives somebody an opportunity to read stuff. Again, business owner for a cafe for 2 years, managed day-to-day operations, maintained high store standards, working conditions, employee morale, led all team members. Look, boom. Own the fact that you were a store owner for a cafe. I love this. Props to Michael, right? For this part of below the fold, I like this. This is what I want to see in your experience sections, right? You have an experience. It was 2 years and 6 months of you being a business owner. And right there on the top, I can see you manage day-to-day operations. Doesn't get any better than that. Yep. Developed and executed sales and profit plans that were in line with budgetary goals, maintain and utilize financial reporting tools, ensure that all team members are properly educated and trained. Look, if I'm looking at this, right, this is not cyber related, but I would hire you based on these management skills alone right here. You have just demonstrated for me that you can do P&Ls, you can do budgets, and you can manage a team. I mean, cybersecurity skills aside, I'm looking at this and this is, yeah, not to steal a line from Office Space, but you've got middle management written all over you. 10 of 10 would look at, okay? So this is, again, even though he's cybersecurity trainee, I look at this, and this cybersecurity specialist starts to become more and more real, right? Maybe train this out for cybersecurity professional. I think you could easily be a SOC manager based on this experience alone, right? And then we get down here, we see your Navy experience down here. I look at this and I'm like, there's no reason why you shouldn't call yourself a professional, a cybersecurity professional, or even a cybersecurity leader, right? A cybersecurity leader. You have got all the traits of a leadership person. Looking at this, when I look at below the line on you, below the fold on you, Michael, and I look at above the fold doesn't impress me, but I get down here and I'm super impressed with your below the fold. You need to make your above the fold reflect all this awesome stuff down here. But this looks good. This is what I'm talking about with your experience section. So again, to recap, right? There's a lot of things that I can see that you've got experience in here. This is somebody who was not in cyber. For some reason, they took a break potentially between, when they got out of the Navy in 2014 and came back into the career field in 2015, right? And so while you were a business owner, I'm okay with you taking a sidestep to be a business owner because you've captured those experiences the right way here. I can't even stress how awesome that is right there. Josh, same thing. Nothing here for experience, right? So when you start to look at some of these profiles, right? When you start to look at how much that experience is captured here on Michael's, and you start to look at some of these other places, you can start to see kind of that lack of capturing of that experience across the board, right? Take the time, capture that experience in those fields, right? Same here with Jason, right? Great work above the fold, right? Let's get some experience down here, especially you got lots of Intel analyst work, operations manager, right? You've got a lot of potential here as well. So capture that essence in below the fold. So to recap, everybody go back, take a look at your experience, right? And put yourself in that proverbial, what did you actually experience at that company that you want to share, that you want to take away from? If you're looking for a good example, I think Michael's profile here is an awesome example. I think Michael, you get a gold star for today. Since we're talking about below the fold, you get the gold star for having the best below the fold of everybody that we're reviewing today. So gold star for Michael. All right. Let's move on down. So I think I mentioned it the other day, right? Where the further you go down, the less likely it is that recruiters are reading things further down the line. than they are above the line. But you can see education. Further my study of networking with additional classes involving security. I like this call out about augmenting your networking classes with security stuff. I wouldn't say small exposure. Again, don't use words that downplay your exposure, especially if you're going to put penetration testing in there. I'd put experienced in penetration testing. This is kind of a statement of hyperbole. Let's not use most classes and projects involve the use of Linux. That doesn't really have a very impactful statement here. So again, I would take the same approach that you took with your experience and put it down here in your education, right? What were some of the things that you did? What were some of the above and beyonds you did? The individual who asked me about WGU earlier, this is where I would put a lot of the WGU stuff, right? Are you in the cybersecurity club? Are you part of CCDC with Pawn Muncher? Right? Are you part of the WGU mentoring stuff? This is all stuff that I would include down here in education. I would absolutely include that. Let's go take a look at Chase's. So again, right, pretty devoid of information that you've got here. Same here, right? Let's take a look at those education pieces and let's try to pull up at least a couple bullets into the education section, right? Let's not just focus just on the degree, right? Let's not assume that the degree talks for itself. Let's actually talk about what it is that we did or learned or took away from those educational experiences. Okay. While we're here on Jason's, we're just going to go on down to licenses and certifications. I love all this. Make sure you include, use. And here's what I like. Here's what I like about this, right? Sometimes people get really, really focused on licenses and certifications and thinks that it has to be CEH or GIAC or an INE, right? Those types of certs and licenses are like a CPNA license. But one of the things that I like that Jason has done here is, they've put. Whoops. Jason has put their Linux certification on here. They put their Splunk certification on here, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. We're not going to take a look at that. It looks like you've attached maybe a cert to it or something like that. But I like that you're looking at these licenses and certifications as the training. So the individual who asked about LinkedIn badges, when we talk about range force badges, when we talk about any of the training that you've done, I like that you've got this, right? You've got force points training in here, insider threat core training of this. This is taking the training, the license and certification. This is kind of taking it to that next level. You're not just looking for just CompTIA security certification, but you've got force point training, you've got Splunk training, you've got Linux Foundation training. I really, really like what you've done here, Jason. And this is definitely what I would encourage everybody to do, is think about all the training you've ever taken. And this is what I would include in this license and certification part down here. Just going through, right? So this is, like all these, definitely put these on here, but is this, I mean, Michael, you've got tons of experience. You got 13 years in the Navy. You've done almost 4 years at General Dynamics, right? You've probably got some more training that you could potentially put into this area right here. I would encourage you to bolster this area up. Not that you've got some good stuff here, but I would encourage you to continue to add to this based on the amount of experience that you've got going on in there, right? Same with Chase. You've got a lot of your cyber stuff in here. I think this is all good stuff to have. Let's make sure that you're putting in, a lot of the ancillary training you're doing. So, right. So this is what I'm talking about, like where you've got just the CompTIA certs, right? And so you're just interpreting the certifications in a very literal sense when it comes to putting your Microsoft and your CompTIA certifications. And if we get back down here to Jason, you can see that Jason's thought outside the box. And he's got like his 2 force point trainings in here. He's got his Splunk training in here, right? I think this is a prime example of what I think you should be thinking about when it comes to this licenses and certifications section. Okay. Um, moving on down, skills and endorsements. Everything else here, I feel like this is all very ancillary. I don't know that people have used this very much. I probably won't comment too much on these because I don't really feel like these get a lot of traction. I will use my profile, and I've kind of come over here and talk about something that has come up in chat a couple of times, which is volunteer experience, right? Which is maybe some of your pro bono work, maybe it's some of your editorial stuff that you've done for somebody else's blog, or maybe it's something that you've done um kind of in addition to some of the other stuff that you've got listed here. That's where I think a lot of the volunteer experience is done. You could put your WGU experience in here. You could put some of the clubs that you're a part of. You could put that in volunteer as well. But I think this is awesome. One of the things that I will encourage everybody to do is to go to your recommendations, right? I you know I think you should ask for recommendations, right? Um, you know, I know that this is somewhat controversial, right? In terms of like, well, does anybody ever read these recommendations? I think this is one of those things where nobody's going to complain that you don't have them, right? But it definitely helps when you do have them. Okay. And so I would encourage you, regardless of, again, I'll go back and I'll pick on, somebody like Mark, right, who spent 13 years at Intuit doing help desk, or even somebody like Angry Amoeba, who's a premier banker, but you've spent 7 years here. Somebody who's spent the last 7 years with you can comment on your work ethic, can comment on your ability to get the job done, can comment on kind of who you are as a person. And I think it's worth looking, trying to reach out to those people and get those recommendations, either for people you've worked for or people who have worked for you. And so when you look at these recommendations, right? I mean, these are recommendations that I've reached out to for people, and it's everything from, folks at Sands, folks that I've worked with in the past, folks, these are former commanders that I had in the military, right? Who worked with me in terms of doing a lot of the cyber stuff that we've done. So use these recommendations to your, it's funny to look through some of these and see what people have written about you in the past. But I would encourage you to take these seriously and reach out and ask for these recommendations. Don't be ashamed to ask for these recommendations, because I think that they definitely speak to they kind of corroborate a lot of the stuff that's in your resume. So if you've never used this, if you haven't thought about it, I would definitely include a lot of these in your in your quest to bolster up your LinkedIn profile. Publications, I think, is the last one on here. I would definitely, if you've been published anywhere, I would definitely encourage you to publish your publications. When we talk about publishing publications, these can be, like in my case, they were the publications that I did for Red Team Journal. They just kind of help, again, kind of add to it. You can kind of see that I've changed some of my profile, and I've included a lot of my media experiences, kind of up here in my about section on things like that. So, lots to take away when we look at below the fold. I'll kind of take a pause here and see if there's any other. Hey, it looks like Mastermind beat me with the raid tonight. I just see Mastermind raiding with a party in 95. Thank you very much, Mastermind, for the raid. Glad to see you. Hope you had an amazing stream, sir. Hope you guys got a lot accomplished. Welcome everybody who's coming in over from Mastermind. We are hacking LinkedIn profiles. We're talking about, looking at several LinkedIn examples of people from my community who are trying to bolster their LinkedIn profiles from a cybersecurity perspective. But a lot of the things that we're talking about here are very applicable. I know you're coming over from Mastermind stream. He does a lot of coding and whatnot. Would love to share a lot of this stuff with you all because I think it's probably pertinent as you guys look at some of your look at your coding or technology resumes as well. So welcome everybody over from Mastermind stream. I hope you had a good stream and I appreciate the raid, sir. So with that being said, We talked a lot about below the line, everything that's here. I do want to kind of cover activity, but I want to see if there's any questions, Carmen, about anything that happened below the line. Crumpus says, "Is it okay to put in all the Skillsoft courses?" Skillsoft's a tough one because I know Skillsoft can get a little spammy. What I would say with Skillsoft is pick and choose the Skillsoft ones that you think help bolster your training. So when we look at things on the resume, and especially in the licenses and certification space, if you think about a Skillsoft course that you took in 2002 about how to do computer repair, that's probably not worth mentioning in 2020. Okay. But if you did a Skillsoft course maybe 2 or 3 or 5 years ago about coding in Python, right? That's probably worth putting on there. So use some discretion when you're looking at those Skillsoft courses. I definitely think that there's some diminishing returns on some of these things, and Skillsoft is a great example of this, whereby you start to lose some of that effectiveness with age, particularly with how long ago it was that you took it. Like when you go back and you look at my resume, you know, my life, I did have a life that existed before the military, but you can see that I didn't put a lot of work into these because I feel like that experience just kind of drifts off after a certain amount of time. And I can tell you that I definitely had jobs before April of 2000 that I didn't include in here. And I'll actually probably, when I go through and re-edit my resume, I'll probably drop these two off because they do have some diminishing returns over time. So I think the same thing could be said for when you look at a lot of the Skillsoft courses that you've got. There's probably some stuff that you could drop off from a diminishing return perspective. Should I list my time I coached high school football and wrestling under the volunteer section? I don't have a problem with that. I think but what I would say is I wouldn't just simply put, basketball or wrestling coach. Talk about the value of that coaching has had on, maybe it was underprivileged youth. Maybe it was, how many kids did you teach teamwork with? Again, own that as if that is a testament to your character in the space, right? What value did you bring, to that high school football team or to that high school wrestling team? What was the value that you brought? And I would own that as part of that experience, and I would absolutely include that. Absolutely. Should we embellish our achievements and experience on LinkedIn and on our resumes? As an example, stating that you led over 300 combat missions in Iraq seems impossible. Buckets with that one. Embellishment is a good way to put it, Fockets, and I'm glad you brought that up, right? Let's talk about that embellishment just a little bit, right? And I presume you're talking about this one, right? Led over 300 combat missions to the Sunni Triangle without losing personnel or equipment. We talk about metrics being, measurable in relevant when it comes to these types of things. I don't think you should lie. I'm not an advocate for lying. You'll never hear me say lie on your resume, and I absolutely don't want you to lie on your resume. Do I know what part you led? Did you lead a squad or did you lead a battalion? Right, and that's military jargon, right? That's a team of 4 people or a team of 400 people. And I don't think that the private sector is going to marginalize whether you led a team of 4 on 300 combat missions or led a team of 400 on combat missions. And so I don't think it's embellishment to have the numbers in here as long as you feel comfortable behind them, right? Remember, at the end of the day, you have to look yourself in the mirror. And so if you're looking at another vet, and if you were looking at another vet who happened to be in the same unit as you, who also happened to be on some of these 300 missions, and you were to stand up at a bar with them and say, hey, wasn't it cool when I led 300 missions in the Sunni Triangle of Iraq? If you can look another vet in the eye and say that with a straight face and with amount of confidence, then it's the appropriate amount of embellishment, is what I would say, right? At the end of the day, it's your integrity on the line, and so that's what I would encourage everybody to look at when they're trying to assess, you know, how much to embellish on their LinkedIn or on their resume. Is keep it, keep it respectable. So I never got my degree. Should I remove the 2 years of being enrolled at that college from my LinkedIn? I don't think so. Angry Amoeba, I don't think that that's fine. I mean, when I looked at this, I didn't see that you didn't get your degree. I see that you studied computer science. But I think to your point, I would put in here what exactly you got in the 2 years that you spent there. You studied computer science. What did you learn? What did you participate in? At least show that you got, some education from it. But and that's kind of, I think to Bucket's point about embellishment, right? You look at this and you see education and you see Minnesota State University, and it never occurred to me that you didn't get a degree. And so that's about as much of an effort as a recruiter is going to look into that. Is they're going to see a school there and they're going to be like, all right, cool. You went to school for comp sci. And again, think about this from getting past those gatekeepers perspective. This is going to help you get past those gatekeepers, because a recruiter is going to look at this and be like, comp sci degree, past the gatekeepers. Do you put every job that you had on your resume? In 2004, my first job was a telemarketer, but had a bunch of different jobs since then. I go back to mine. There's a lot of jobs that I had before 2000 that I didn't include because they have diminishing returns. There are, these two I'm probably pretty close to dropping off just because they are close to 20 years old. So I'm pretty close to probably dropping these off as well. Especially since they happened before I was in the military, and almost everybody just immediately takes my life that I existed from the military on. So I think that you don't have to include every single solitary job, but if you're going to start in 2004, and list everything from 2004 to 2020, I do think you should list everything, and you should own what it is that you did in that time. I don't think you should try to say, well, I'm not going to include anything, prior to like 2016 or 2015 because it was telemarketing. Own the telemarketer job, own the fact that you did it and that you were the best damn telemarketer that was out there. And that's what I would encourage you to do. One more, this is the last question, and then I'm going to press on because I want to cover job searches and networking on LinkedIn, which is one of the big things that I had for tonight. I'm scared about the timelines aspect of the experiences. I've been told a few times it's not good when you see a few jobs that were only there for 1 to 3 years. Thoughts? I don't buy off on that, especially from the cybersecurity perspective. I don't like this right here from Jason's. I don't immediately look at this and only think, 1 year, 2 years, 1 year, 8 months, right? That doesn't bother me as a hiring manager as much as it does. I have no idea what you did here, and I have no idea what your experience is, right? Because here's what I say. In cyber, there's so much you can do in a year, right? Think about that. And I'll give my current company as an example. I've built a global security operations team for a Fortune 100 company in 12 months from scratch. Right? Converted it from an MSSP to building a full in-house SIM, 17 new hires, new SOAR capability, new threat intelligence capability, new threat hunting, new red teaming, new purple teaming in 12 months. If I left today building that in 12 months, do you think that looks bad on my resume? To build a world-class, garnered by McKinsey as one of the toppest, highest, most rated maturity organizations out there, and I left in 12 months, I wouldn't be ashamed about that. And I dare anybody to be like, well, you only stayed there for a year. Do you see what I accomplished in a year? Own that year's worth of experience and put that on your resume and be like, yeah, I was only there for a year. Did you see what I accomplished in a year? And I would own it from that perspective. All right. So, one of the things that I did want to cover tonight, one of the things that we've talked about extensively on LinkedIn, and I'm going to close some of these tabs just because we've got a few of these open. We've talked about using LinkedIn and using the networking part of LinkedIn. And one of the things that I talk about pretty extensively right on LinkedIn is looking for jobs and looking for work on LinkedIn. And so kind of the last part that I want to wrap up with LinkedIn hacking, right, is how to network, how to use those connections, and how to look for a job on LinkedIn. It may sound super intuitive, but I think people don't really understand what it is I'm talking about when I give the examples of looking for a job on LinkedIn. I'm going to do this. Hopefully, the demo gods don't frown upon me for this. I did this the other day when I practiced it, and so I'm hoping to be able to repeat it. But let's look for a penetration tester. And we're gonna keep it pretty global all across the board here, right? And so we talk about looking for a penetration tester, and you can even, one of the things that I want to make sure everybody's aware of, right, is all this stuff up here at the top of LinkedIn. And let's go into this experience level and let's look for an entry level and an associate style penetration tester, and let's see what we got here. Okay. So here is a list of all of the jobs across the United States of penetration testers that are out there. I want to make sure, and again, I'm not trying to insult anybody's intelligence, but let's make sure that we understand what it is that we're looking at here, right? You got the title, you've got the company, you got the location. People want to look at the salary and don't pay attention to this. Do not pay attention to this. Do not let this persuade you to apply, and don't let this persuade you to not apply. Okay? Because what's listed here, again, if you heard me in LinkedIn, it may not necessarily be the negotiated rate, and I think you can kind of get away with looking outside of that. Obviously, you've got ones that are promoted, right? One of the things that I want you guys, and this is why I encourage you to build your network. This is why I encourage you to take your 1,000 connection challenge seriously, because what you should be doing is, let's start with an easy one. Let's start with one where I have connections that work there, and I'm not going to click on a promoted one because I'm not going to encourage you to pay for that job. Let's go. Let's see if we got are all the penetration testers promoted? Look at all these. All these penetration testers are promoted. So here we go. Penetration tester remote for Charles Schwab out of Illinois. Let's take a look at this one. All right. So you click on it. Right. Here's the job. Right. It was posted a month ago. It's had 569 views. They're looking for remote for here at Charles Schwab. One of the first things that I always go look at immediately is how many connections in my network work there. And I'll go to those 3 connections and I'll be like, okay, who do we have that I know that works at Charles Schwab, right? Senior staff digital product owner, director of cloud application security, and senior manager of digital product management. Okay. So when I look at those 3, probably the person who's potentially closest to this role is Pete, right? Because he's a director. That's a pretty high up position. I'm liking that. And cloud and application security, he's probably the closest one when it comes to that. Is this an application penetration? It just says penetration tester, right? So Pete is here. And so one of the first things that I'm going to want to do if I'm already connected to Pete and I'm interested in this job is I'm going to reestablish communication with Pete. And you can see I don't have a message with Pete, so I haven't, I connected with him, but I've obviously never talked to him. And so it could be something as like, what's today? Monday? Happy Monday, Pete. I know we connected a long time ago, but have never been formally introduced. My name is Neil, and I see that you do cloud and AppSec at, wow, I can't type today because everybody's watching me, Charles Schwab. I have a passion for application security, and I wonder if you would be interested in just chatting with me about what your job entails. Right? That's it. Pretty easy message, right? And I have no idea I have no idea if Pete knows about this job being, on the website. I have no idea. Like, you could tell that Pete and I have never talked. I have no idea when Pete and I connected, right? But I'm making a personal connection to Pete, and I'm trying to reach out to Pete so that I can at least get on the phone with him. I can hear about his role at Charles Schwab. He can hear about me as a person, and now you're networking. Now you're developing a personal connection with Pete, right? What's the worst that's going to happen? He says no. Who cares, right? If he tells me to go pound sand, that's okay, right? You at least tried. What you want to do is you want to get engaged in that conversation. You want to hope that you can pull Pete into a conversation and you can tell him about yourself. Hey, I'm Neil. I spent 10 years in the Air Force, primarily doing offensive cyber. I spent a number of years at Fidelity, building the red team and penetration testing team at Fidelity. I do hack the box, try hack me, yada 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 yada. What skills do you think I need to be a penetration tester at Charles Schwab? And if he's like, wow, this sounds really, really good, I actually think you have everything we need, then you get to come right back over here. Yes, discard. And you get to say, hey, I'm glad you agree with that. Charles Schwab has a penetration tester. Would you be interested in referring me? Guess what? Most companies have referral bonuses if they refer a candidate that ultimately gets hired. So it's in Pete's best interest to refer you internally because he's probably going to get $1,000 or $2,000 of a bonus to do that. And so that is kind of part one that I wanted to show you guys in terms of using your network to get connections. Okay. Let me see if I can find one where I don't actually have any connections at all. The Norwegian Cruise Line. Okay, cool. I don't have anybody who's connected to Norwegian Cruise Lines. I just totally clicked on a promoted one. Told myself I wasn't going to do that. Let's go and add some connections, right? So all I did was I found the job that I was interested in, the Norwegian Cruise Line offensive security analyst, and there's this nice little add button here for connections, right? So this isn't something you have to wait until you're looking for a job to do, right? Don't wait until you're trying to find a job to go through this step. You should always be on this job board, right? As part of your day-to-day with LinkedIn, looking at some of these job postings and be like, oh, let's go connect with somebody at Norwegian, because chances are if they have one job posting for an offensive security analyst, they may have multiple or they may have more in the future. And so it behooves you to go ahead and start making those connections. So let's look at some connections inside of Norwegian Cruise Lines. Now, it gets a little crazy because there are about 9,800 results here, right? So, this can get a little daunting to look at, but this is, again, where the power of your network comes into play. LinkedIn is going to bring up to the top the folks that you have a pretty huge opportunity to connect with. So in this case, the VP of Enterprise Technology and the Chief Information Security Officer at Norwegian Cruise Lines, it looks like he's a second order connection, which means I don't have a connection to him directly, but somebody in my network does. Look, there are 37 people here who know the CISO at Norwegian Cruise Lines. Now we're back to step one. Let's go to these 37 mutual connections and let's start talking to these, right? Look at them first. Do I know anybody really, really well, right? Do I know anybody personally? Have I talked to anybody on here, right? And then you just kind of go through there. You say, hey, look, I'm interested in getting an introduction to the CISO at Norwegian Cruise Lines. Could you facilitate that introduction? So, that's step one. The other step that I would encourage you to do, the VP of Enterprise Technology is also the Chief Information Security Officer at Norwegian Cruise Lines. Chances are there's this little other view box over here, which is people also viewed. This is probably going to tell you people who work inside of Norwegian Cruise Lines that you may also be interested in connecting to. Okay, this is important because you may not necessarily know. People oftentimes ask me, well, Neil, how do I find the hiring manager? This is how you start down that path of finding that hiring manager. Let me reiterate that. This is how you start down that path of finding that hiring manager. Okay. And so when you start to go over here to these people also viewed, you see we've got a director of data integrations at Norwegian Cruise Lines, a director of risk and compliance, vice president of enterprise data management, an information security professional, right? You've got all these other people that you can then start to drill down. Like, look, senior director of IT infrastructure at Norwegian, right? All of these folks that you get to start drilling down. Let's take this guy, director of risk management and compliance at Norwegian, right? Again, somebody else that you could probably be connected to. Then you can kind of move over here to the right and see who else they're connected to, right? Just keep following down that line, and through this type of open source intelligence gathering on LinkedIn, you'll eventually get connected to a handful of people that are inside of Norwegian Cruise Lines, ultimately with the objective of finding out how you get in as an offensive security analyst at Norwegian Cruise Lines. Now, seriously, there's somebody who's listening to me right now who's going, God, Neil, that sounds like an awful lot of work. If that is you right now, then you don't want the job bad enough. That's the hard truth. If you're looking at everything I just walked through and you're like, nope, that's too hard for me, you don't want it bad enough. Okay? And that is why you're probably not getting the job that you want to get, is because you're not putting in the work on your LinkedIn. I saw that soapbox comment. I'm trying to keep the soapbox under the desk. This is you're probably not putting in the work on your LinkedIn, and you're probably not using these capabilities that are built into LinkedIn to help you get the job. These things are here. I didn't teach you anything secret. This isn't anything I paid for. This isn't anything that you can't do today. This is all stuff that you all have at your disposal today that can help you get a job in the field of cybersecurity that you want. Well, Neil, what about an intern? How do I get an intern job? I think I showed this somewhere on somebody's stream. I can't remember if it was David's or not, right? Let's go cyber intern, right? Look at all these. Look at these internships, right? Right? Just search intern and we can go through here and we can find interns. Software engineering and cybersecurity summer intern at John Deere. Right there. And this one's even paid. This one's even a paid intern. Right? 4 days ago. Right? Use the tools that I teach you. Use the techniques that I teach you. Right? I love teaching you all this stuff and I want you guys to succeed, but go and use the tools. These tools are out there for you. And so to recap, because I know we're coming up to the top of the hour, right? Make sure that you're using the jobs section of LinkedIn. Make sure that you're going out there and you're finding jobs that you're interested in, right? If you don't have connections at the company, go add those connections, right? This is how you should be when you're doing the 1,000 Connect challenge. This should be how you're conducting your 1,000 Connect challenge, is finding the people who work at companies that you want to work for, or finding people who work in the job roles that you ultimately want a job in. And you should be, look at this. Oh my God, there's an instant response analyst for SpaceX. Who doesn't want to go do that? Right? Go introduce yourself to these two cybersecurity people at SpaceX. Go make friends with them. Why are you not connected to these people at SpaceX? If you're writing a blog post, excuse me, when I go back to some of the things that I talk about writing on LinkedIn, if you wrote something about incident response on LinkedIn or in an article or in a blog post, reach out to these guys, reach out to these two gentlemen here and say, hey, look, I wrote this thing on this malware, or I wrote this thing on this incident, or I wrote this piece on this tactic, technique, or procedure. You're an expert in this field. I'd really like for you to review my stuff. Will you review my stuff? That's how you do that. That's how you use LinkedIn for your advantage. So, with that being said, I want to turn it over last little bit for questions before we close it out for tonight. I'm actually going to pull this over here. Angry Amoeba says, when connecting with random people like that, what would you do for a message so it's not just a cold connection? The biggest thing that I encourage you to do, right, when it comes to making any connection on LinkedIn is to, make it personable, right? If you're going to connect to somebody, I probably shouldn't have pulled this. I probably should pull this back over here so that I've got this to deal with, right? So let's talk about a cold connection. Let's see here. I think I demonstrated this. I'm connected to him. Who am I not connected with at SpaceX? Let's go to SpaceX. I'm going to look for somebody I'm not connected to at SpaceX. Not Elon Musk. All right, 28 people who work in the Chicagoland area. Let's go take a look at these people. She's a buyer planner. Look, here's a good person, right? So here's talent at SpaceX. I'm not connected with her, right? I'm going to connect with her, and I'm going to add a note, and I'm going to say, hey, Haley, I see that you are in charge. Actually, let's just make sure that we don't screw this up a little bit. Let's open a new tab. Let's go double check on Haley's stuff. Yep, she's still talent at SpaceX. We're connected to a lot of people. Is there anybody we're connected to that I know really, really well? Don't see anything here. So I don't really see anybody here that I know really, really well that I'm really connected to. I see Haley's working at SpaceX. She's been there for about 2 years. She worked at Hulu. She's been around. So let's do this. Let's go over here. Let's connect to Haley. Let's add a note. Let's say, hey, Haley. Looks like we're connected to the same people. And I follow. Didn't SpaceX recently have a successful launch? Looks like SpaceX is doing really well. Super excited about your team's mission. I'd really love to connect with you. Right? Super easy, right? Nice and simple, right? Keep it just like that, right? What you're saying is you're connecting with the person, you're making it personable, right? You're telling them that you're super excited about their team's mission and you really like to connect with her, right? Now, she's in talent, right? So we just looked at a job that was in SpaceX. It behooves us to be... Now, she's going to look at that profile and she's going to be like, yeah, absolutely. I know you want to connect with me because I'm in talent. You probably want a job at SpaceX. But that's her job, is to find talent out there. So I think that's the best possible place that you could have asked for a connection. And I think that that's the best way to do it, right? Is to just reach out there and be like, hey, I love what it is you guys do. I think you have an awesome mission. I'd really love to connect with you. And we'll see if Haley ends up connecting with us. Fair warning, this will come across as a phishing attempt. I disagree with that. If you're talking about, those types of cold reach outs, I think that's, I appreciate your paranoia, but I disagree with that. Cyber Columbiana again, how many days do you recommend waiting for a response before applying to ensure the job rec doesn't get closed? That's a good question. I don't think that there's a hard science or a hard fact to that. I think, there's a lot that goes on to a job rec, right? When somebody gives me a head count and I want to open up a head count, there's an initial hustle and bustle that comes with that head count. You're like, let's go, let's get some people in here, let's get some interviews happening, let's make this happen. But at the same time, you're like, you want to try to wait as long as possible because you know that, there's a lot of talent out there that you've got to sift through. At the same time, you're getting a lot of pressure from leadership to fill that head count, before that head count closes out. I think, there's a chore to doing the path that I outlined when it comes to that, like how long should you wait? I think the answer is you should do a multitude of things in parallel, when it comes to it. Do the reach out like I showed before. Where was that page at? Over here, right? Go through the hassle of of doing the reach out to the folks that you know in those organizations and trying to get in touch with those people in those organizations and apply at the same time. Most likely, it's okay to work those two things in parallel. People may not pay attention to their LinkedIn every day. You know, people may not be quick to respond, but I have found that at least you can work them in parallel and you can try to attack it from multiple angles, and find that kind of path of least resistance. But I don't think there's a good math equation for it, to be quite honest with you. Later, can we compose LinkedIn versus clearancejobs.com for us, or still compare LinkedIn versus clearancejobs for those still in active duty? I hate the clearancejobs.com site. I'll add that to the list, but I'll need a couple single malt beverages to kind of help with that one. That the clearance jobs website is ugly. It's horrible. I absolutely hate that website. Is there a cyber insecurity try hack me team? There's not. There's a cyber insecurity on CTF time. I'll give you all a little hint. I'm having a conversation with Range Force on Wednesday, and we are going to talk about a red versus blue competition that we are going to televise on the Cyber Insecurity Network. And I'll leave it at that. Oh man, that's tiny. It's tiny. Gotta pull that one over here to the monitor. Cyber insecurity. Hey Neil, I was just offered a job as a web developer and IT support. An ultimate goal of mine would be a network analyst role with a company. Should I invest more time preparing for net analyst, try Hack Me, Hackbox, Security Plus, etc., or determined to bring the best value added into the current web dev IT support role? Which should be prioritized? I think you should do them both in parallel. I'm a fan when you ask questions. When anybody asks me questions like that, I immediately go do both. Right? I think the answer is do both of those. Like, I don't see why you can't do both of those in parallel. If you have to prioritize, and I'm not, when I say prioritize, right? When people talk about prioritize, they're running out of time, money, or effort, right? Remember those three things, right? That's what we talk about: time, money, and effort. When you're trying to prioritize, do you not have enough time? Do you not have enough money? Or do you not have enough effort? Right? Really seriously look at yourself. Because if you can do both, I would do both. But if you had to prioritize, I would excel at doing the job you have now, because you want to be known for being awesome in your profession. You want people, when it gets to that recommendation section, when it gets to, like, this gets back to what Joel said about garbage jobs, right? You want to be the best darn garbage person you can, because that political capital that you'll get in your organization goes further, right? So be the best darn web developer and IT support person you can be first, right? That's where your effort should be prioritized, because you'll gain more political capital that way. What's the difference between promoted and remote? Promoted means that the company paid to have that job appear pretty high in the search results. It's almost like paying Google AdWords, right? That's what promoted means. The company paid to have that job highlighted. Remote work means that they're open to remote. Now, caution on the remote stuff. I have heard tale of people advertising jobs as remote only to get you to the interview and say, well, it's remote for now until we get out of this COVID scenario, and then we're going to want you to come back to the office. So, take those with a grain of salt when it comes to the remote stuff. Make sure you're asking the right questions there. But promoted just means the company paid for it. Me being cynical over, I'm not going to click on a promoted job. It's just me trying not to, mess with their metrics just for a demonstration. Most of my background is in customer service at a bar and a grocery store. I'm 25. I'm about to finish a training program with A plus and Net plus. How should I advertise myself to even get my first tech job, let alone cyber? I mean, you did customer service at a bar. Did you ever have anybody throw a bottle at you? Did anybody ever reach across the bar and slap you side the face because you messed up their drinks? Right? Did you have 100% customer service satisfaction with your drinks that you made at a bar? Right? Think outside that box when it comes to, right, the job that you had at a bar. Right? Take that seriously. I think when you talk about finishing your first training program in A plus and Net plus, right, this gets back to some of the things that we talked about on your LinkedIn profile in terms of, owning, the fact that you've learned a whole lot, right? You didn't just chase the paper and get the cert, and then focus on looking for those internships, looking for those jobs that allow you to take those skills that you have. Now, don't turn your nose up at garbage jobs, just like we've heard on this stream before. Don't turn your nose up at help desk jobs, right? Those are great jobs that, are jobs that you shouldn't turn your nose up at. And so I would highlight those skill sets, and I would own that and be responsible for it. Oh my gosh, that's tiny ultros. I guess the main thing that can be a hard pill to swallow for me is I'm humble by nature, and I feel that if I were to state I'm a specialist or a professional, that technical interviews will be slamming me in the face with reality, especially when I know I'm not on that level yet, or even more accurate, ever will be. So my question is, where do people with no paid experience and or people that are career shifting draw the line? Interviews are a real challenge at that point. So in all fairness, ultras, I heard a whole lot of imposter syndrome. Okay. Like, we want to talk about a hard pill to swallow. This is a statement of imposter syndrome. Okay. You don't know, right? Right. You're saying humble by nature. You're worried that you're going to be called out for something that you don't know that somebody may ask you anywhere else. Do you know imposter syndrome? I still have it today. I had it when I was a SANS instructor. I was a SANS instructor, which means I sat on the same stages as John Strand, Ed Scotus, Eric Cole, Bryce Galbraith. And you want to talk about getting imposter syndrome, standing in front of a room full of 65 people and worrying if one of them is going to ask you a question you don't know. I'll tell you all a story. I'll tell you all another imposter syndrome story. Right? I did cyber operations in the Air Force. I never conducted a penetration test in the Air Force. But when I got to that interview with Fidelity, I had to pretend that I had done penetration testing in the military when the best I had done was offensive operations. And knowing that the private sector wouldn't know the difference between the two. Right? So you have to own what you do know. You have to be humble enough that if you get, to your point, proverbially slammed in the face in an interview, if you get slammed in the face, you should want that, right? You should expect that challenge, and you should want that challenge. And if you don't get the job because you didn't know it, guess what? You just learned what it is you needed to go out and do to get the job the next time. Remember, good quote, every no brings you one step closer to a yes, but you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And so if you're going to take this imposter syndrome mentality down here, you're never going to get your job. What you're wanting me to tell you is, how do you play it safe? And that's not why you came to my stream. I'm not telling you how to play it safe. I'll never tell you how to play it safe. Right? Take the shot. Man up, right? Take the shot. Last question, and then I'm going to ask Carmen to look for us a person to raid. I've troubled figuring out how to talk about my self-employed experience. Okay, good question. I see where this is going. I haven't had a real job in a few years. I'm basically tech support, and right now I kind of mix training. I do with that work experience, but most of my paid work comes from landscaping. How should I sell myself, especially when it comes to job titles? Does it come across as phony when I list my separate revenue streams as employers? Absolutely not. Right. And I don't think in this day and age, it's uncommon for you to have multiple streams of revenue, right? I think if anything, that shows your entrepreneurial spirit. And I think that that's when you talk about a real job, when you talk about being self-employed, I think you have a very awesome story about, the amount of discipline that it takes to be self-employed. You have to go find your own customers. You have to keep your own customers happy. You have to do all of the work. You have to, you find out all this stuff about marketing. You find all this stuff about sales. You find all this stuff about bookkeeping. You have a ton. Like, I would look at self-employed experience as just a massive business portfolio. And so I would definitely treat, all of your self-employed experience, and I would highlight your business acumen, because when you talk about job titles, and that's what I would put. I would put business owner, right? Business owner, Neil's landscaping, right? Business owner, Neil's snow shoveling company, right? Right. Put that business owner stuff in there and highlight how many people did you lead as part of your landscaping company? Was it 3, 5, 10, 50? Put that in there, right? Was it $1 million revenue business? Then put in there that you led a multi-million-dollar revenue business, right? Like, own those types of stats. And I think you have a better story than most anybody else who's come in from an outside career field, because you have owned your own business. And because of that business experience, that's a lot of leadership potential that when we talk about a cybersecurity organization, and when I see questions like this, I worry very much that you're thinking about IR, or you're thinking about ethical hacking, or you're thinking about all these technical, things that you can do inside of a cybersecurity organization. And I caution you to remember that there's a whole soft side of an organization that focuses on policy and compliance, that focuses on risk and governance, that focuses on, audit, that focuses on all these other softer side of skills, all these business focused side of skills that I think you have a ton. Just looking at this question right here, looks like you have a ton of experience in, that I do think make you qualified to do a job. And so that's how I would look at it. And this is what I talk about with thinking outside that box about your capabilities, and really highlighting the skills that you bring to the table. So hopefully that was helpful. And with that, I think that we will go ahead and wrap up for tonight. For up-to-the-minute cybersecurity news, make sure you follow and subscribe to the Cyber and Security channel on Twitch and YouTube. Also, make sure you turn on those notifications so that you know when we go live.